back to Drunk on Wanderlust. This is part 2 of us hiking the Brontë Way. We left off in part 1 when I was visiting the Brontë Falls.
I then joined the adventure after the worst bus and train in the entire universe, but it was fine because I met up with this one in the village of Haworth. I found her in the pub, obviously. We then went on to the Brontë Parsonage Museum.
If you haven't seen part 1 of this trail, you can find it in the link above.
Look who I found!
What a day.
In the pub. She finally arrived.
It was still tipping it down as we explored the village of Haworth, and before too long we passed the old Brontë family home, now known as the Brontë Parsonage Museum.
So we're outside the Brontë Parsonage Museum, which is the house they lived in for most of their life, 1820 to 1861, where they wrote some of their most famous novels such as Jane Eyre and Wuthering.
The museum is only open Wednesdays through Sundays, so unfortunately we couldn't go inside this time.
We're back on the route and we've got 1.5 miles to Oxenhope.
We're hiking in the rain, hiking in the rain.
We continued on the trail, heading towards Oxenhope. This was Danni's first hiking trail, and although the weather was a bit pants, I was really hoping she would still enjoy the experience. Just past Oxenhope, the trail takes you by Leeming Reservoir. We then only had around 4.5 miles to finish that evening before we reached our bed and breakfast, located in the village of Thornton. Not far to go now. After encountering more tiny gates and walkways, we thought we were on the home stretch. Then it all went pear-shaped.
Everything is wet. We're trekking through literal bog. Loads of time out of the way that we need to go, completely off route, just to avoid cows. But it's worth it, isn't it?
Okay, so I have a fear of cows after being chased by a whole herd last year. Turns out Danni wasn't keen either.
I'm not being funny. But what is this footpath all about? I feel like there's steam coming out, there's cows. Oh, what a day.
After the longest diversion ever, we finally made it to Thornton just as it was getting dark. We had a wonderful night in our bed and breakfast, ordered a giant pizza and had a good night's sleep. We even managed to dry out our wet gear. Last night we stayed here in Thornton in this gorgeous Ashtree bed and breakfast. We're well rested, much better than my first night camping in the wilderness. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. Didn't want to get up, but I'm ready. Ready, I think.
We've got 15 miles to do today to get to the finishing point, and then another 3 miles to get to the station. Depending on time and how we're doing, we may catch a taxi for the last 3 miles.
Hopefully it's no cows.
Yeah, hopefully we won't have any really scary cow experiences, so let's do it. Yes, a cooked breakfast was just what we needed. We then headed off on the route to find the birthplace of the Brontë sisters.
So we're in Thornton, and this is the official house that the Brontes were born in. There we go, a little sign.
We left Thornton and began to make our way towards Clayton when we hit our first obstacle of the day.
So we've braved the cow field and we've ended up in Shrek's swamp, covered in mud. I don't know what that is. I'm concerned for my life, but I'd rather take mud than cows.
Danni lost her hat. Quick, get it!
Oh, what day.
We eventually trudged through it and carried on, still in good spirits, enjoying the views from the top of the hill at Clayton.
So we've come to a gate and that we need to go through, and someone has padlocked it shut, which is really helpful but we're just going to climb over it. So just to pre-warn you, sometimes you might have to crawl through undergrowth and climb over fences. We're not impressed. There's some proper body shaming passageways on this hike. I mean, you've got to be a matchstick to get through there.
So the running theme for this section of the Brontë Way was teeny tiny passages, locked gates, cows and mud. Ridiculous amounts of mud. Thankfully, we saw the funny side of it all. We kept our smiles, even though we ended up absolutely filthy. The sun was fighting through the clouds, which lit up the Yorkshire countryside beautifully. And before too long, we had made our way through the village of Shelf and into some pretty woodland as the trail joined up with the Calderdale Way.
So we're meant to be going over the rock, but there is another field full of cows. So we're going to divert on the other side and go down this lovely little bit. It's nice and peaceful, no animals, and probably hop over some rocks back down there.
Now I know there's a 99% chance these cows are just minding their own business and wouldn't pay the slightest bit of attention to us passing through, but the 1% chance of them stampeding towards me again made climbing over barbed wire fences feel like the better option. If there's anyone out there that's had a scary cow encounter, please let us know in the comments.
More teeny tiny gates that we've got squeezed through with these bags. I'll show you.
Our success, and Danni also had achieved something.
What did you do?
I did a wee in a bush.
First time on a hike. No longer a wee virgin.
No.
She had been stressing out about having an alfresco wee all day, but now realised it wasn't such a big deal. Oh look, a great big pile of poo. Lovely.
We were just so brave. What did we do?
We went through a giant field with loads of cows.
My heart is going 10 to the dozen.
They were just chomping though, they're eating away, so they weren't bothered.
I think we're getting braver. I think we're doing well.
Yeah.
We were facing our fears, but only because I couldn't find an alternative route to avoid them this time.
The sun has got his hat on. Hip 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 hooray. The sun has got his hat on and he's coming out to play.
We were getting close now. The trail passed through a few more small villages in between stretches of really pretty countryside. And although by now we both had some serious blisters from having wet feet all day, we were still determined to finish the trail and get to Oakwell Hall.
We're on the last mile.
Yes!
Everything hurts. Our feet have been soaking wet since about 10 o'clock this morning. We've got blisters. We've got pains everywhere from the hips down. It's a challenge. Danni just had a fly in her mouth. She's vegetarian.
I know,
so,
I'm not about that life.
but we're almost there.
One last push. As we crossed through fields on the outskirts of Birstall, we reached the finishing point of the Brontë Way.
We made it to Oakwell Hall. It was built in 1583 and it was visited by Charlotte Brontë lots in the 19th century, and she featured it as Fieldhead in her novel Shirley.
Oakwell Hall is a Grade 1 listed Elizabethan manor house set in 110 acres of country park. A beautiful building and a lovely end to an enjoyable and interesting trail. Well, there we go. Thank you so much for watching.
If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe.
For more adventures and plenty more trails coming up in the future. Stay safe. Bye for now.
Bye.